Chelsea have made Stamford Bridge a fortress as of late, but we turn to an away tie this time out, travelling to Kenilworth Road to take on the plucky Luton Town. But how will we play, and how did Chelsea win? Let's get to it. Lads, lasses and the rest of the masses, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mono from Mono CFC, and welcome to the lead-in. Like always, I'm going to be predicting the lineups that I feel will play, and show how I believe our team could set up tactically. So, without further ado, let's firstly look at our opponents for this match. Luton are currently sitting in 18th place in the Premier League table. 4 wins, 3 draws and 11 losses sees them on 15 points with a game in hand on the teams above them. Luton vs Chelsea is not a fixture that happens very often, so I won't highlight the head-to-head here as I so often do, but it's notable that the last time these two sides met, Chelsea won pretty comfortably, a 3-0 win at Stamford Bridge. Luton will be looking to get some revenge on us this time around, with their form improving significantly from that outing. So, how are they planning to try and achieve that? Let's look at the team. Luton Town, managed by Rob Edwards, will likely set up in their normal 3 at the back, so I'll be putting them into a very standard 3-4-3. They have a few key absentees, so the team will be slightly different to how it was when the sides met earlier in the season. First up in goal will be Thomas Kaminski. Not much to say here, he's played in net all season for them so far, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. For the back 3, this will be slightly changed from usual. Obviously, after his rather upsetting cardiac arrest a few games ago, Captain Tom Lockyer will not feature, but luckily, according to reports, he seems to be doing well and is recovering in the safety of his own home. It goes without saying, but on behalf of the Chelsea fanbase, get well soon, Tom. So instead, starting on the right hand side will be Teden Mengi, in the centre will be Gabriel Osho, and over on the left will be Amari Bell. Moving into the midfield 4, we'll start with the right wing-back role, and that will be occupied by goalscorer last time out, Alfie Doughty, who is taking the place of Loni Issa Kabore, who is out with injury. The 2 centre-mids will be the strongest part in my opinion. Arsenal Loni Albert Sambi Lokonga will be looking to oppress once again, and ex-Chelsea man Ross Barkley will be trying to be the playmaker in that centre. Finally, over on the left-hand side will be, as ever, Ryan Giles. The 3 up top will be changed from the last time out in my opinion, but over on the right of the 3 will once again be Andros Townsend, who I think has been an excellent addition to this Luton side. Over on the left is where I'll be making changes. I think after how well he played last time out off of the bench, Carlton Morris has forced his way back into the team, and Jacob Brown is the most expendable of the 3 that played last time out in my opinion. This means that up top will remain Elijah Adebayo, who will likely line up in a top 2 with Morris in actuality. Now I'm not going to talk about Luton's tactics here as usual, but if you want a small bit of insight into them and how they could play, then I suggest watching this video from our last game where I went into a little bit more depth on them. Link is in the top right hand corner or in the description. However, I will mention a few things of note about them. Firstly, Luton's form has been really good since we last faced them, with that result against us remaining their worst defeat of the season so far. Since that 3-0 hammering, they have made it really difficult to beat them, with almost every team that has beaten them only winning by a single goal. Not only that, but in that time they have drawn with Liverpool, taken Arsenal to the brink in a 4-3 barn burner, drawn with Wolves, who we lost to, beaten Everton, who we lost to, beaten Newcastle, who we lost to, drawn with Nottingham Forest, who we lost to, beaten Palace, who we just beat, and beaten Sheffield United, who we also beat. They really have the wind in their sails at the moment after 2 wins in a row, and they could look at Chelsea as a beatable team considering the type of teams we struggle against, defensively astute teams that are good in the air. Luton are a prime example of this type of team, and we could see them easily making this game difficult for us. Kenilworth Road in particular has been a nightmare to play at this season for a lot of teams. The home crowd really boosts this Luton team, and most teams that visit the stadium look a shadow of their former selves. It's worth mentioning that if Luton were to beat us in this game, it would be the first time they have got 3 straight wins in the top flight since 1991, and lo and behold, the team that they did that against last time was Chelsea. Coincidentally, that game over 3 decades ago was also Luton's last game of the calendar year, like this one is. If history is anything to go by, this could be a very bad omen for the Blues, who are not in the greatest form themselves. That being said, despite all my praise for them, overall they have been pretty poor this season, which is why they are as low in the table as they are. They have the 5th least amount of goals scored in the league, whilst also conceding the 3rd most goals in the league so far this season. However, they will be extremely motivated to win this one. As I mentioned earlier, they have a game in hand on the teams above them, and all 3 points here would see them on 18 points, hoisting them firmly out of the relegation zone, above Everton and Forest. This game is far more important to them than it is to us, so we have to be at our absolute best despite the extra day of rest they have over us. But, as always, I'd like to focus more on our own team from now on, so speaking of the Blues, let's talk about Chelsea. But real quick, I'm aiming to hit 16,000 subscribers before the start of the new year, so if you enjoy my content, hit that subscribe button. Cheers! Let's start with the formation. I'm going to be putting us into what I believe is our strongest team, and for that I think we need to play the 4-3-3. First up in goal, I'm going to be putting in Djordje Petrovic, who in Robert Sanchez's absence has completely taken the number 1 spot in my opinion. His calmness on the ball, shot stopping ability and good distribution have been a welcome sight, and long may it continue. Now the back 4 will not be changed. The first name on the team sheet for me has to be Malo Gusto at right back. He was phenomenal last time out and I hope that Poch actually leaves him in his favoured position for once. The centre back partnership I'm not going to be altering at all. I think we will need height at the back against this Luton team, so the duo of Axel Disasi and Benoit Badiashile remain for me. The left back spot shouldn't be hard to pick, Ian Martson should play here, but I don't have faith in Poch to ever play a full team where everyone is in their correct positions, so I'll be putting in Levi Colwill instead. Moving into the midfield, this will be hard to pick with a lot of injuries in this area. Lavia likely would have started, but he had a small issue after his cameo last time out, and so I'll be putting in Moises Caicedo and Conor Gallagher as the pivot, with Cole Palmer returning from suspension in the more advanced midfield role. This leaves 3 up top, and this is difficult to pick because we don't know the extent of Mudryk's injury, as well as some players being in form that otherwise wouldn't be in the team. Over on the right, perhaps this is wishful thinking, but I will be stunned if Noni Madueke doesn't start after his amazing cameo off of the bench last time out. The left hand side is trickier, but I'm going to play it safe and suggest that Mudryk isn't able to play. This means that the left will be occupied by either Nkunku or Sterling, and I expect Poch to bench Nkunku for this one, so Sterling starts on the left in my opinion. Nkunku has played a lot of football recently, and coming back from a long-term injury, his minutes needs to be managed carefully, so I'm playing it safe here too. Up top, I'm going to be putting in Nicholas Jackson once again. He was phenomenal in that first half last time out, and rather unlucky not to get a goal or two in the second, and some assists may I add, so I expect him to retain his place over Broja. Now I'm going to break down how I think we should play in order to get a result against Luton, but before I do so it's time for the question of the day. As always, I'm going to highlight some of the comments from the last video, so here are a few responses to the last question of the day. Thanks guys for your continued support as ever. If you want your comment to be featured in the next video, leave your answer to this video's question of the day down below with QOTD at the start as always. So for this week's question of the day, we'll go for a simple one. What do you think is our best attacking 4 when all of our players are fit, and why? Alright, so how will we play? Well, I think that this game will be the true make or break for our season. If we can't beat Luton, we might as well pack up and go home in all honesty. All of our games from this point on are must-win games, and if we are to salvage our season in any meaningful way, this run of fixtures up until we play Liverpool is the perfect chance for us to do so. I expect absolutely no excuses from this point on. We should be winning every single game from here until that tie at Anfield. That has to start at Luton, so as always, I'm going to highlight some keys to success here. We can take a lot of positives from that previous game against Luton, and so I'm going to suggest we do a few things that we did well in that game in order to replicate the same success. Firstly, Luton are a team that like to pressurise the ball and get their fullbacks high whilst they do it. This was to their detriment in truth, as Chelsea found it fairly easy to play around them, or just play long balls over the top from the back to the front. Jackson is good at holding up the ball and making runs in behind, and I suggest we play similarly to how we did in the closing stages of the second half against Palace, and at the start of the first half. Direct, transitional play from the back in order to catch the Luton defence napping. What we also did well in that game was to get the ball into the box from wide areas. We almost matched the 3-4-3 as we had Gusto at right back and Colwill at left back, like we do in this game if my predictions are correct, and then used the right hand side as an attacking outlet very effectively, with all 3 of our goals coming from that right side. One was a fantastic solo effort from Sterling, but the other 2 were goals that came as a result of what I believe we should be aiming to do in this game upcoming. Low balls into the box for tap-ins. I often suggest that when we play balls into the box we keep them low, as most teams have an aerial advantage over our forwards, and this next game is no different. Luton, despite their slight improvements, are still not the greatest defensive side, and these types of pinpoint balls into the mixer are really hard to defend if done correctly. I think playing down the right hand side in general is a good idea, not only because Madueke and Gusto were our most productive players last time out, but because Ryan Giles on the left hand side for Luton is a very aggressive player that likes to get forward and often leaves space in behind to attack, space which we won't get a lot of the time in this game due to the defensive setup that they play. For the most part, we know we are coming up against a low block, and Chelsea have notoriously struggled against these types of setups. I've already made videos on this issue in the past, but if this is the case in this game, we will have to do a few things to get success. We will have to shift the ball quickly once we get into areas high up the pitch. Our build-up play can be slow, calm and controlled, but once we get into that attacking third, the play needs to speed up significantly, shifting the Luton defence around and trying to fashion openings for either through balls in the centre of the park to Jackson/Sterling, or balls down the line to overlapping fullbacks, who can then either whip the ball into the area or pass it through for one of our wingers. The final thing I want to mention is that Pochettino really needs to fix up when it comes to his substitutions in this game. We usually start well but tail off towards the end of games, and this is in part due to Poch usually making rather negative substitutions. In this game we could be in a situation where we need a goal late on, as Luton are quite a stubborn side at home, so we can't be bringing on centre backs or shifting our attacking fullbacks to the wrong side. Barring any injuries, there is no reason for us to be bringing on defensive-minded players. Our substitutions should be aiming to bring more energy to the team and more attacking intent. There's not much more that I can say about this game, as we've seen how these two teams interacted with each other last time out, but I will once again stress the importance of 3 points here. We are currently 6 points away from European spots, but 9 points away from the relegation zone too, with a few teams below us having a game in hand on us, and the 2 teams directly below us having the same point total. A loss here could see us drop down to 12th place if Bournemouth and Wolves get a point, and 13th if Brentford win their next game and their game in hand. Relegation is certainly a possibility if we do not get our act together, and we should be expected to win our next 5 games in all competitions if we are to be taken seriously. For a score prediction, I'm going to, as ever, predict a Chelsea win, and I'm going to be quite safe here and say that Chelsea will beat Luton by 2-1. I'm going to say that our goals will come from Nkunku, a neat finish into the bottom right corner after coming off of the bench, and the other will be a goal for Nicholas Jackson, who will finally find his shooting boots once again. For Luton, I think it's pretty likely that they score from a penalty, and that pen will be converted by, of course, Carlton Morris. But that was just my lead-in match preview for Chelsea vs Luton Town. Thank you ever so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on these possible lineups in the comment section below, and if you'd be so kind, subscribe to the channel and leave the video a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to tap the notification bell so you never miss a video from me, or check out some of the other videos on the channel on screen right now. I've been Mono from Mono CFC, and remember, in the rain or in the dry, keep that blue flag flying high. Come on, you Blues.